Well, good morning. About 30 minutes ago, I called Bob on his cell phone and said, I don't know if I can get there on time. I'm stuck on US 50 here, and the traffic's not moving. There are probably a few people in that kind of situation today. As I looked at my little GPS, which has a link, satellite link, that tells you what the traffic conditions are, just about every road was red. So folks braving the elements coming in, probably drifting in as you meet this morning. General Davis, glad to see you here. Former Director of the National Guard. Great to have you with us this morning. And we are the Reserve Officers Association, and we also represent members of the Air and Army Guard, as well as members of all the reserve components. I'd like to particularly extend thanks to Alan Luxembourg and his wife, Jan. They're great partners in this continuing program that we have. They are obviously from Foreign Policy Research Institute out of Philadelphia, which is a great think tank, fortunately not located here in D.C. And this is the 6th program that ROA's Defense Education Forum has conducted in partnership with FPRI. I'd like to also thank Dr. Harvey Sicherman. Dr. Sicherman is ill and could not be with us today, and he's a mainstay at every one of these, so we look forward to him being back at the next one of these events. His leadership of the Institute and close relationship that we've developed over the years is very important. Again, I'd also like to thank Alan and his wife Jan for their very hard work, unfailing good nature, particularly on a day like today, and putting up with us. The programs don't just materialize, and we greatly appreciate your efforts on this and other programs as well. I see some folks in uniform. I don't know if you come from the active component or the reserve component, so I'm going to look at you and say, are you active component or reserve component? Army Reserve? Good. And Air Force Reserve? Active Air Force. Anybody else that is currently serving or former members? I know that our moderator today, I'll introduce in just a minute, is a former member of the Army Reserve. The Reserve Officers Association has been in existence since 1922. If you look at our Hall of Fame on the back wall there, you'll see former President Harry Truman, who was a member of both the Army Reserve and the Army National Guard in World War I. And somebody, when you see people our age see his picture, we tend to quake a little bit. General Davis, I don't know if you're old enough to remember General Hershey, but when we were in college, the vision of him was fixed firmly in our minds as if you failed to make your grades, he was going to induct you into the military, and you were going to have hopefully a round-trip ticket to Vietnam. I did not have bad grades, but I still got the round-trip ticket. So, but anyway, General Lewis Hershey was the gentleman who actually secured the site that you're on today and raised the money to build this building. And so he gets an attaboy from me for having done that, even though I quaked in fear back in the 1960s whenever I heard his name mentioned. ROA, even though it's an older organization, I think the National Guard Association outdates us by some years. I keep looking at General Davis. He's not a charter member, I know, and neither am I a charter member of ROA. But having been here a long time, sometimes it's hard to remember exactly what ROA is here for, what NAUGUS is here for, and really when it gets down to it, I don't know about NAUGUS's charter, but our charter is about national security. It doesn't say a home for old retired people who are only concerned about TRICARE for life. We are, if you rode up on the elevator and you looked at that poster on the back wall, you'll see maybe one thing having to do with an entitlement, having to do, frankly, not with TRICARE for life, but TRICARE Reserve Select, TRICARE for the retired reserve, which goes into effect the end of the week. And we are working diligently for TRICARE for the individual ready reserve. And the reason that is important to me is my predecessor, now Assistant Secretary of Defense Dennis McCarthy, reminded me not so long ago that the IRR also serves in conflicts. and they do not have access to TRICARE Reserve Select because they are not serving in a reserve unit. They have access to the what they call the TAMP, pre-mobilization and post-deployment, but there are many members of the individual ready reserve who volunteer to serve in the current conflicts who do not get this particular coverage, and that's the reason it's on the wall there in the elevator. But we're also concerned at ROA with resetting the force, with equipment, personnel, training, all those things that are necessary now that the reserve is now an operational force and not a strategic force. It's problematic that you're not going to be dealing with that today necessarily, but I'm giving you the long-term elevator speech here on what's important to us. And again, everything that we focus on Capitol Hill is for the benefit of the Reserve and Guard, all members of the Reserve components in every service, including the Coast Guard, Public Health Service, and even NOAA, which doesn't even have a Reserve Corps, but they are a part of the uniformed services of the United States. We hope you enjoy your time here today, and hope you enjoy this session. I would like to spend just a moment to introduce our moderator today, Mike Noonan, who is the Director for National Security Programs at FPRI. Mike, are you still in the Reserve?
I'm not, sir.
He's not. But Mike was captain of the Army Reserve, served in Iraq in 2006 and 2007. I notice he has a combat action badge on, so he was not away from the sound of the guns. And we're proud of your service, and we're happy that you're with us today. And I'm not going to spend any more time doing commercial announcement. I'm going to turn it over to Mike, and thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you, sir.
You bet.
Well, Major General Bockel, Lieutenant Colonel Fiedler, the staff here at the Reserve Officers Association, I want to thank you on behalf of the fellows and trustees of the Foreign Policy Research Institute. I'd also like to thank Alan Luxembourg, Jan Luxembourg, and also our webcast crew here from Primitive World today. I also want to thank the people that both showed up today. Thank you due to the weather. I know it's a little dreary outside. I also want to thank the people that are watching this by webcast. We have about 80 to 100 people that are going to be monitoring the conference there. Some of them are have either a tactical or operational deal with the issue of foreign fighters at either a tactical or an operational level. So I want to thank you all, people downrange. Just a little bit about the Foreign Policy Research Institute. We are a think tank in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We were established at the University of Pennsylvania in 1955. We split off in 1970, became independent. We do research, education, and publication. Each of you should have a packet of information, including our journal Orbis, which we began publishing in 1957. This is actually our second conference on the foreign fighter problem. Our first conference was last summer here in Washington, D.C. And for me personally, this is an interest of mine, both analytically but also on a personal level. As Major General Bockel said before, I served in 2006, 2007, in and outside of the northern city of Tal Afar in northwest Iraq. Pretty much every mass casualty event that we had up there was because of foreign fighters. There was a big bombing, I remember, in March of 2007, killed about 120 people in a market. It was carried out by foreign jihadis. After I left, there was a series of big attacks against the Yazidi community up outside Sinjar. So for me personally, this is a matter of interest. Today, I think we have a great lineup. I'm going to say that because I assembled the people here for this. But I think we'll have a very productive day and a half. I think we have some real subject matter expertise and look forward to your interaction with them through Q&A. And also people on the web also can conduct Q&A by sending their messages, and Alan Luxembourg is monitoring that. But before we get into the programming, it is our honor and privilege to have Mr. Terrence Ford, who is the Director of Intelligence and Knowledge Development at Africom. For those of you who don't know a lot about Africom, It is the youngest of the regional unified commands. It was founded in 2007. It's responsible for 53 countries in Africa, and it's kind of a new and it's kind of not your father's regional unified command. Africom works with our regional partners there, particularly through the Trans-Sahara Counterterrorism Initiative and other things to abate this problem that we have with foreign fighters in that region. And Mr. Terrence Ford, as I said, is the Director of Intelligence and Knowledge Development. He is a member of the Senior Executive Service. For those of you, I'm sure most people here know about that, but basically flag officer, general officer equivalent in the civil service. He served a long and distinguished career in the United States Army, served in leadership and command positions from platoon up to brigade level, as a staff officer from battalion up to Joint Task Force, and also at the Department of the Army. Since he took off the uniform, he continues to work in the Department of Defense. As you can see from his resume, quite an impressive list of achievements and positions. Before we introduce Mr. Ford, though, we have a message from General Ward. General Ward is the first commander of Africom. He has a long and distinguished career, held leadership and command positions from platoon leader all the way up to now regional combatant commander. And I just want to send this. We're very thankful. Originally, we had asked General Ward to come and speak, and unfortunately he couldn't make it, but we're very happy to have Mr. Ford. I guess he probably drew the short straw because right now is Oktoberfest, and it would be a good time to be in Stuttgart right now, I think.